Now let's look at how these numbers are written in the second form, which is the exponential form. Now, for example, the exponential form is the form that we have here in red, where we have a common base 10, for example, in the 1, 2, 3, in the third row, written in red, we have a 10 to the 0. In our units column, we have a 10 to the 1. In our tens column, we have a 10 to the 2. In our hundreds column, and so on. Now, this form is called the exponential form. That's the form we are going to be writing these same numbers in. Again, take part A. Let me just pull this down quickly a bit so that we can have some space down here. Yes, let's just stop there. Okay. Now, if you notice in part A, all right, let me change this quickly. In part A, the number is 762.54, and now we're going to write that number in exponential form. Now, if you notice this, and let me show you a quick thing. If you notice in exponential form, here I have for example, I have a 10 to the 1, and if you look below the 10 to the 1, in that column, same column, you would have 10. So 10 to the 1 is the same as 10. Now, if you notice, we would have 10 to the 2. 10 to the 2 in the hundreds column. 10 to the 2 is the same as 100. If you notice, it's raised to the power of 2. And if you notice, here I have a 1 and 2 zeros beside it. If you move over to the thousand column, you notice I would have a 10 to the 3. And if you look below it, you would see me have a 1 and 3 zeros beside the 1, which means 1,000. And if you move over to the 10,000 column, we would have 10 to the 4. And if you look below that, I would have a 1 and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Okay, so again, just want to reemphasize that it doesn't matter which one of these forms the number is written in, it would have the same value. Okay. Now let's quickly move on. In exponential form now, the 7 is in the hundreds column, and in exponential form, 100 is the same as 10 to the 2. So here I would have a 7, right? I would have my 7, so open bracket, and I would have a 7 times 10 to the 2, okay? Close bracket. So that is the same as 7 times 100. Which is 700. And here now I would have plus open bracket, and my 6 in part A, the second digit 6 is in the tens column, so I would have 6 times 10, because that's a 10 column, but that is 10 to the 1 in exponential form. And I'm going to close my bracket, then I would have a plus, and I have a 2 in the ones column, so that would be open bracket 2 times 10 to the 0, and I'm closing that. And you note now carefully, as I move across my decimal point, I would have a 5. So if you look carefully in exponential form, in the 10th column, which the 5 is located, you would have a 10 to the negative 1. So I would have plus open bracket, and I'm going across my decimal point, and that is 5 times 10 to the negative 1. Okay, and then I would have a plus open bracket, and I would now have a 4 times 10 to the negative 2, because the 4 would be in the 100th column, which is the second decimal place. All right, now quickly for part B, let's look at that quickly for part B. And let me just change my color. Let me use a yellow. All right, now for part B, we would have, for example, for part B, we have 53,902.7, and here the 5, when we, as we have written it in our place value chart, the 5 will be located in the 10,000 column, and 10,000 is the same as 10 to the 4th power. So we would have a open bracket, and we would have a, sorry, let me just get rid of that. We would have a 5 times 10 to the 4th power. Okay, and let's close our bracket. Then we would have plus, and the next digit that we have is a 3, so we would have 3 times, and the 3 is in the 1000 column, so we would have 3 times 10 to the 3rd power, and then that's being added to the 9, which is in the hundreds column, so I would have a 9 times 10 to the second power, and that's being added to, I would have a 0 in my tens column, so I can just put that as a placeholder. 0 times 10 to the first power. Okay, we know that anything times 0 is 0, so that would still work out. And we have a plus open bracket, and after 0 we have a 2 in the units column, and that is 2 times 10 to the 0 power. And again, just for emphasis, remember any digit raised to the power, or any number raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So this is the same as 1, as you would have it below the 10 to the 0 here. Okay, so that would work out to 2 times 1, which is the same as 2. And as I move across my decimal point now, I would have a plus open bracket. 7 is in my 10th column, so I would have 7 times 10 to the negative 1 power. Okay, and it's that cool. So let me just pull this up a bit so that we can have a little bit more space to work the other one. All right, so again here, I'm focusing now on the third number, or that number in part C, which is 4150.836. And for part C, our final number in exponential form, if you notice, the 4 here is in the thousand column. So again, we would have a 4 times 1,000 is 10 to the third power. So we would have 4 times 10 to the 3, and that's being added to the 1 times 10 to the 2. That's 1 times 10 to the 2, and that is also being added to, I have a 5 in the tens column, so that's really 5 times 10 to the 1. So that's a 5 times 10 to the 1 power, and that's being added to a 0 is in the units column again, so I have a 0 times 10 to the 0 power. Okay, so again, as I move across my decimal point, in my 10th column, I would have a 8 here, so this would be 8 times 10 to the negative 1. And then in my 100th column, which is the second column moving to the right of my decimal point, I would have a 3 times 10 to the negative 2. And then in my third column, I would have a 6 times 10 to the negative 3. Yes, and it's that easy. That's how we write a number in 3 different forms. So as you see, the number, as you have seen, the number 762.54 could be written in any 3 ways, and all of these it can be written in 3 different ways. Rather, it can be written in the, as we have done before, we wrote it in the expanded form. Now we have written it in the exponential form, and in the expanded form, the numbers would have the same value. Okay, it's that. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at how we write these same 3 numbers in the decimal form. Okay, stay tuned. Bye bye.